Pittsburgh. Right, face. Forward, march. Lieutenant David Tamber will now deliver.
In 1985, when my parents joined many other people who are in this room to welcome the Pittsburgh into the fleet. I was reminded how cold it was when I got up this morning and went outside here, and I said, well, how appropriate for the Pittsburgh to start and end the same way. But we have the benefit of now being here safe and secure in a warm room. I'm always reminded, though, that we're safe and secure because of the work of submarines like the USS Pittsburgh. I'm reminded of the people from Pittsburgh who have been faithful to the submarine from the very first day. People who not only attended the launching and the commissioning, but people who have been faithful throughout the entire time of the Pittsburgh's history. People like Polly Bosnick-Beater, John Kessborough, Catherine Kirsten, all of my Navy League friends, all of my submarine veteran friends, Huey Dietrich and the sub-vets who are here with us today. Each and every one has helped the Pittsburgh from afar. And I know because we've seen the crews and we've had a chance to have them in our homes, we've had a chance through the years to help pay for scholarships for many of the children and some of the crew members. That's been a joy and a blessing for the city of Pittsburgh, for those of us that have been involved. I play a very small part. I'm humbled because I just happen to have been the president when this happened. I represent many other people who are more deserved to be here at this moment. I want to read two things very quickly, and then we'll get on with the program. The first one's fairly important. This comes from Mayor Peduto. Hear you this. Whereas the USS Pittsburgh is the fourth United States Navy vessel to be named for our city. Whereas the keel of the Los Angeles-class submarine was laid down on April 15, 1983. The vessel was launched in 1984 and commissioned on December 23, 1985. And whereas the USS Pittsburgh has long had a special relationship with this city through the nonprofit Pittsburgh Council, Navy League, and submarine veterans. And whereas the ship's missions have been classified, but it saw action in both Iraq wars, firing Tomahawk missiles as part of Operation Desert Storm in '91, and again in 2002 during Operation Iraqi Freedom. And whereas the submarine marked its 1,000th dive in November 2017, after which some of the crew posed for a picture holding a Pittsburgh terrible towel. Whereas after 35 years, today, the crew and supporters gathered to recognize and remember this great ship at the time of its inactivation. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the city of Pittsburgh does thank and recognize the crew of the USS Pittsburgh for their dedication and service to our country. We further salute and thank all the crew members who have served throughout all of the years, many of whom are gathered in this room today. Furthermore, as mayor of Pittsburgh, I declare Friday, January 17th, 2020 as USS Pittsburgh Day in the most livable city in North America. I have one last thing to say before I turn the mic back over. The heart of steel will live forever. On behalf of the men and the women of the United States Navy League Pittsburgh Council, congratulations to the officers and to the men of the USS Pittsburgh SSN-720 for completing the final mission. For 35 years, we have enjoyed a unique partnership that has few parallels. It has been our honor to serve you and your families for all of those years. We have shared joys and concerns, laughter and tears, and our hearts are forever entwined with a shared service to a great nation. Thank you, Captain Dykler, for being such an outstanding friend. The Pittsburgh Council wants you to know that you will always have a home to come back to when your days serving the country are through. God bless all of the men who have sailed on this mighty ship of steel. Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Carol H. Sawyer, sponsor of the USS Pittsburgh.
When you're going to tell a story, it's always good to begin at the beginning. So picture this with me. Picture that you are in Groton, Connecticut at the Electric Boat Company. It's December 8th, 1984, 35 years ago. And yes, it's a cold day, crisply cold, bright blue sky, but very sunny. There's bunting everywhere, snapping in the breeze off the river, and there are diamonds of sunlight sparkling in that river. There's a shiny new submarine poised just at the edge of the river. And the ship's personnel, some of whom are here today, are dressed in blue uniforms, and they're in formation up on top of this new submarine, along with family and friends. As we move through the ceremony, it becomes time for me to say the traditional words that the Navy always uses. In the name of the United States, I christen thee Pittsburgh. May God bless her and all who sail in her. In the name of the United States, I christen thee Pittsburgh. May God bless her and all who sail in her. And I swung the bottom, smashed it against the bow of the ship. Beautiful splash of champagne. And the submarine slid very gracefully down the waves and into the river. A Navy band burst out in music to capture our joy and echo our cheers. And up on top of that new ship, John Van Hyke from the Pittsburgh Navy League smashed a bottle of Iron City beer. So our boat was christened twice. Most of you, many of you, but not all of you, were not in Groton that day. George Sawyer was the principal speaker of the morning. In his remarks, he spoke of this great and good United States of America. This great and good United States of America. Think with me for a minute about what that means. Think with me about the week before you travel here to celebrate and to salute the fine ship and her good people. Think with me about how those words, this great and good United States of America, are experienced in your life and in the days just past. Think with me about what's a typical day for me. It starts in the morning with the newspaper, always with the newspaper. And then depending upon the issue of the day and how I feel about it, I may reach out to my congresswoman. I will certainly, as the day proceeds, have a contact with my family. It might be text, there might be pictures, could be a phone call. I'll have some work to do. I can walk 2 blocks up to the cathedral, if it's Tuesday, for an amazing organ concert at noon. Then I can come home and have a really good lunch with homemade soup. I can open up my computer and dream about a trip to Italy. And later in the day, if I'm out in San Diego's 2 p.m. highway traffic, truly terrible traffic, I can turn on the car radio to National Public Radio. And maybe that evening I might go to a concert or a theater, Shakespeare in the Park with some friends. And that's an almost typical day for me. First the news, then some political engagement, a chance to do my own good work, a family connection, an opportunity to travel or plan some travel, some music, some theater. Now for you, as you're thinking along with me, your own fairly typical day might look a little bit different because each one of us constructs a meaningful life with the choices and the priorities that we make. Whatever are the differences in your own typical day, this we know is certain. For millions of people in hundreds of countries around this globe, the key elements of my day, of your day, what we experience, how we live, for those millions of people, much of that is never possible. Today I know that my life is good. I live a life that illustrates what George spoke of all those years ago, a great and good United States of America. When I look across this room, I'm reminded of the many people who take an oath to support and defend, an oath to bear true faith and allegiance. People who take that oath leave home to serve. They put on a uniform. They make the sacrifice of time away from the people they love. They hold the willingness to give up their lives for country. Now that's not my own individual story, but it has been part of my family story. Through generations, my family has served in the military, grandfathers, uncles, husband, even today, a son and grandsons. And we're very grateful that we have their stories, sometimes through letters and diaries that share with us their lifelong impact of their service experience. Because I have not had that experience, I'm thinking, what does it mean instead to have a very indirect military experience, to sponsor a ship, this ship, SSN-720, USS Pittsburgh, to have my own small space within what has been appropriately called the USS Pittsburgh family. Family. People who are connected because we hold and we share the values that we live. So what does it mean to be a Navy ship sponsor? Well, it doesn't mean only that I smashed a bomb, although that was really quite spectacular and very exciting. It's here. If you want to look at it later, but don't pick it up because there's a lot of truth left. every day for 35 years, I've embodied the gratitude of the American people. See, this is what I do. In my very person, in who I am, I'm living our gratitude for the commitment, the service, the professionalism, the sacrifice, and the patriotism that I have witnessed. And not just gratitude for those who have sailed within USS Pittsburgh, but also gratitude for those who support her at home and in countless organizations and locations around the world. In one person, my one person, a sponsor, I embody the gratitude of the nation. In Groton, on that cold but sunny day, we called out a blessing. Not just a blessing for a shiny new submarine, but a blessing for everyone who would sail in that ship. There are persons here today who did sail in USS Pittsburgh, those who are doing so now, and those who've done it throughout her years of active duty. And there are men here who have held the extraordinary responsibility and trust of command on this submarine. There are many others who came aboard Pittsburgh to provide varied and complex types of expertise needed. And all of them, each one of them, had a commitment. A commitment to ensure that a vessel of such awesome technical power, a warship, a vessel with a significant and very sobering role, they had a commitment to ensure that such a ship, this ship, our ship, could function in the responsibility that it was designed and commissioned to undertake. I was driving home from teaching a class when War in the Mediterranean was announced, and I had every reason to think that our boat was in the Mediterranean, and I knew what that would mean. I can't cry because the car made me promise, so. But that night, I did cry. And let me tell you, if you have ever been on the Southern California highway, it is not a good idea to also be crying. When I got home, I wrote a letter to the boat, and I said that I admired and respected their mission and their responsibility, but really what I wanted them just to spy. I thought, going from ocean to ocean and sort of spying on the bad guys was a good idea. But most of all, I always thought of the submarine as like a kind of a highly mobile fence that would move around and keep the ugly neighbors out. And I want to also acknowledge that the officers and men who have served on the Pittsburgh over all these years, some we think possibly 2,000, they have partners. And some of them are women who are here. Women who have partners, those officers and men, who provided meaningful support to families when the ship was away, under the water, fulfilling its mission. So today, I bring a message to the current and former crew, the officers and men, the supporting families, those who are here, those who are in our hearts, and those who could not join us today. We all know that our lives are made possible in George Sawyer's words years ago. We do live our lives in a good and great nation. Today is a day for celebration and salutes. It's a day for recognition, appreciation, and gratitude for those collective good and great lives. So, if you now serve, or in the past you have served on the USS Pittsburgh underwater, or if you have served because you waited and supported at home, please stand up now. Stand to be recognized and thanked so we can protect our land.
Thank you, Carol, Dr. Sawyer, for that amazing speech. I will speak a little bit more on my relationship with Dr. Sawyer, but we have a surprise for you today. So Dr. Sawyer mentioned in her speech, she described it so beautifully, only as a professor can, what it was like that day. But we have that video for you, Carol, of what it was like that day. And we'd like to share it with the entire crowd today, what it was like to christen the USS Pittsburgh. So, XO?
Right. Yeah.
So as you saw our christening, Carol has described to me over the last 2 years very vividly how she practiced for that day. I think it was a backswing.
I practiced forward swing, but on the day of, it was
So Carol, as always, had to pivot, and she made a decision. And unlike not all ships have the bottle smash on the first try, but Carol had it. And please, if you get a chance, we'll bring the artifact. But as she mentioned, Pittsburgh was christened twice. Once with the bottle of champagne, and then again with a bottle of Iron City beer. So, Carol, today from the city of Pittsburgh and from Iron City, they have commemorated another bottle of Iron City for you for our inactivation today, and we'd like to present this to you. For 35 years of dedicated service, the crew members, past and present, would like to present to you this shadow box here, as Chief Waters will present it to you. So thank you, Carol, for all your service.
Ladies and gentlemen, Commander Jason Zeichler, Commanding Officer, USS Pittsburgh.
I have the distinct honor today of introducing our guest speaker, Commander Submarine Group 9, Rear Admiral Doug Perry. Admiral Perry is a 1989 graduate of the United States Naval Academy, dedicating over 30 years of service to his country. Your program contains his biography and the significant accomplishments he has achieved throughout his career. And I don't want to repeat those here. What I want to do is introduce the Admiral Perry that I know. I first met Admiral Perry when he served as the Submarine Force Atlantic Chief of Staff. We worked closely on submarine personnel and policy decisions that reshaped and reinvigorated the submarine officer career path. But before I met him, I worked with his nephew, Lieutenant Al Perry, and Al's wife, his niece-in-law, Lieutenant Vanessa Perry, both submarine department heads here in the Bangor, Bremerton area. I asked Vanessa for a little bit of intel before I went to meet the Admiral for the first time, as every good officer would do. Vanessa smiled, and she said, "Be prepared. Be prepared for a high-energy, highly motivated submarine officer." She even added, "He might challenge you to a race, so be ready." A little bit more on that later. I will tell you, Vanessa's description was spot on. To this day, I have yet to meet a submarine officer as motivated or dedicated to the force in the United States Navy as Admiral Perry. His energy is a true force of nature, and it extends to the stories of his time on board Pittsburgh as a junior officer. Admiral Perry was the first officer to greet my crew during our inbound to Bremerton during an at-sea personnel transfer. Now, typically, I will tell you, as a commanding officer, when an admiral ascends to the bridge, you prepare for a full inspection and some direction on how to navigate your submarine. Not so in this case. Admiral Perry greeted each of my bridge watchstanders with a smile, introduced himself, and stood silently side by side with me for the final ride on board Pittsburgh. Now, although he didn't challenge me to a race during our first encounter, about a week after I arrived, he coyly asked me to go for a Sunday bicycle ride, while graciously offering his basement as a bicycle shop, equipped with the single noisiest tire bike pump I have ever heard in my life. I cautiously agreed, and we went out for what I thought was going to be a brisk 10 to 15 mile ride. 30 miles later, with a smile on his face, he turned around and he looked at me and he said, "Maybe next time, kid." That's Admiral Perry. Setting the standard, demanding the best, and watching out for his submariners. I could not be happier to have him here today speaking of the rich history of the Pittsburgh and the submarine force. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Submarine Group 9, Rear Admiral Doug Perry.
All right, can everybody see me behind this really huge,
Stand up, Mr. Perry.
stand up? Heard that before.
Sorry.
It's actually the most embarrassing time that's ever happened was when one of my chief petty officer's daughters, who was like this tall, kneeled down to take my picture taken. It is great to be here today. It's not about me actually, and I'm absolutely thrilled to be talking about USS Pittsburgh, and I'll try to follow a little bit of a storyline of what the Pittsburgh's inactivation today really means for the submarine force in the nation, and trace a little bit of the history over the last 35 years. Because what today is not, it's not the end of the careers of the sailors, the chiefs, the officers that are seated to your left, because they are not tied to this submarine in that aspect. In fact, they're going to take their talents, their character from Pittsburgh, and we're going to send them all around the rest of the submarine force, the rest of the Navy, and repopulate, re-energize the rest of the force with that same character. The heart of steel we're going to move that all around the submarine force to make it stronger. In terms of the submarine Pittsburgh, its inactivation is really enabling us to reconstitute the most capable submarine force the world has ever known, and to make it even better for what the nation requires, what it needs in the next decade, the next 3 decades. And that's how long we'll operate the USS Delaware, the USS Vermont, USS Oregon. Probably some of those submarines are where some of these sailors are going. In fact, I think a torpedoman chief who I met just a while back is headed to the USS Vermont. And so without further ado, it's great to be here. Dr. Sawyer, Admiral Bouchon, Admiral Hahn, Admiral Sharp here today, USS Pittsburgh, and all the other commanding officers, but USS Pittsburgh commanding officers, friends, family, and all. I just learned this word, Yinzers. Bob McPherson filled me. I think it was Bob who filled me in on that. Yinzers, Steelers, Pirates, Pittsburghers, and anyone else with a heart of steel. I welcome one and all here to this inactivation of SSN-720 USS Pittsburgh. Of course, pleasure to be here today to represent Submarine Group 9, the Submarine Force, and the Navy, but mostly just to be here as a crew member. I'm humbled and honored to speak about this great crew that is here today, the ship, and where it really all began for me. A special offer of welcome to Dr. Sawyer. You have served as the proud sponsor of this great ship throughout its service life. We appreciate all you've done throughout the years to be the advocate for and the #1 fan of the USS Pittsburgh. And your sponsorship has been, steadfast throughout all the years. Pittsburgh crew, past and present, we cannot thank you enough. Thanks for that. A few other luminaries I'd like to mention, and they're not all wearing sub-vets vests. There are a few others, but here in the pack row with us today, Warrant Officer Bob McPherson, President of the Navy League in Pittsburgh, Mr. Huey Dietrich. We didn't get a chance to chat with you last night. Is he in the audience back there? Huey, good chat with you last night. Commanding Officer of the Pittsburgh Subvets U.S. Recommend Chapter. Thank you for making the trip out. And I think you've got about 10 of your mates here today. Is that right?
14.
All right. Only about half of them were able to regale me last night with Diesel Boats Forever. And, last night. I didn't think we were going to be able to shut down my house last night. Luckily, the beer ran out, so they all took off. So I think Rick, I think there's actually a Huey, Louie, Rick, Bob, Mike, and lots of others. But it's great to see you. I'm sure the stories and along with everything else are going to flow over there, horse and cow today. A couple of folks who made a big difference in the current and last crew of Pittsburgh. I'd like to take Mrs. Michelle Waters, seated right here, Chief Waters' wife, the Ombudsman of USS Pittsburgh. Thank you. Last night, we chatted last night, but thank you for everything you've done for the families that moved across country to make it a smooth move and the last move as a crew. And your impact has been huge. I think it was 75 families that made that move. And it probably won't be your last Navy move, but thanks for doing this for Pittsburgh. And not least, I want to thank Michelle Deichler, Jason's wife. She is the mother of Jason and her 4 wonderful children, Hannah, James, Matthew, and Ian. And her support of Jason throughout his command tour has been key to his success, but not just command tour, but throughout his assignments. Command is hard. Being separated from family makes it even harder. And you've made it possible for him to be incredibly effective, as well as for this crew to do their missions throughout that time. Thank you very much. So I have some prepared remarks, but I got to try to make this a little bit fun and enjoyable, so everybody can get on to stories here later today. But one of the things, as I was going through the history of the submarine, and some of you know this, is that after it was actually built, they installed this special propulsor. They knew this ship was going to do great things. It was the second to actually be delivered with vertical launch, but really the first submarine that really had in the valve after Providence, but the first one to really go to sea with vertical launch tubes, to get certified to actually launch a Tomahawk missile and then fire them not just once but twice, actually in combat. And but there was something else, this thing called this propulsor. And anybody on board when that thing got installed? Oh, yeah, there you go. All right, it was the best day of your life, I think. It was awesome. Well, I, for one, I was a diver on board, and I served with Steve Wolf when I reported on board. We both had our hail and farewell essentially the same day. And but when this Pittsburgh's commission, we put on this awesome propulsor that was going to be the stealth mechanism for the Seawolf class submarine that Lincoln Reichstag, seated here, is Commodore Deveron 5, has the pleasure of commanding. that engineering system, when it enabled the ship to go fast, it did something peculiar to the Pittsburgh. And it was removed some years ago. But anybody who was on the Pittsburgh, what did it do to the ship?
It made a noise.
Yeah, it like rotated the ship about 5 degrees when you went really fast. So that's all good if you're going up to maybe 5, 10, 15 knots, not a big deal. When you put the pedal down and you want to move, well, that submarine, because of the propulsor, really could move like no other LA class submarine. But it kind of, everything rotated. So if you happen to be a runner, which I am, or a cyclist, or using any of the gear, you get on that treadmill, try running sideways on the side of the road, or like whatever period, or a stair stepper. It was not all that easy. So that's the oddity of it. Well, then the odd things were just maintaining this thing. Well, I have something I need to talk to Steve Wolf about, the commanding officer that I served with. Well, we were coming back from our deployment in the early 90s, and one of the things that happened was we left Rotterdam, came through the Straits of Dover, and what we did was we put the pedal to the metal. We had to get across the Atlantic because we had an Operation Reactor Safeguards exam. We wanted to get ahead of PIM and then do some drills, get the oars done, go into port. So we put the pedal down, and some things kind of seemed a little bit odd, but got the oars done, got into Groton, had some leave, came back, doing a dive inspection with my divers, and well, I found out that propulsor was no longer attached to the submarine. So what I have here today is I've got a DD 220 form, which is a financial liability investigation of property loss. That's the bill. So Steve, I talked to Ron Malampy and Ron Steed and Jamie Riegert and the rest of the wardroom, but
And they didn't believe me.
If Steve's going to be there, he can take the bill. And so I've talked to the JAG, and I've talked to my CHOP. We've referenced the CASREP that was transmitted by Jamie Riegert back in 1992. And we'll arrange a payment plan that you and Susie can work out. So with that, Steve and Susie, I can't tell you how great it is to see you here today. My time with Steve and Susie was literally, we reported on board at the same time, and it was fantastic. They were lucky they didn't have to take that extra year up at Portsmouth Naval Shipyard to do that really hard work that many of us are doing, that this crew is doing now, which is kind of working on the submarine in the shipyard period. It's really the hardest thing we ask any of our sailors to do, but great to see you. So, it's a special day today. We come together to say goodbye to the USS Pittsburgh. Now, in activation ceremonies, you often hear statements about how the ship is ultimately just a hunk of steel, but it's Iron City steel in this case. I don't disagree with that sentiment, but with Pittsburgh, the submarine, and the city of Pittsburgh itself, the city of steel, a hunk of steel just means a lot more. The crews that have been a part of it, these gentlemen know, and frankly, so do the families. When you think of Pittsburgh, where it's been, the history it's been a part of, there's a quality of the boat that has reverberated through all the crews, and I mean all the crews that have served. For me, it's sort of like the retirement of an officer who served or a chief who served for 35 years. Now, Pittsburgh sailors, they are tough. They're resourceful. They know how to have a good time, as referenced by all the sub-vets who might not have originally served, but they represent Pittsburgh sailors. Most of us, not all of us, we're all better sailors for having been part of the Pittsburgh's history. It began back in '85, as discussed, but it was commissioned at a kind of a special time in our history. What was happening back then? So at that time, when she was commissioned, our country was still in the middle of the Great Cold War, defined the second half of the 20th century, and we had designed it, putting in the VLS, and thinking that that's what we were going to need it for. And as part of a great power competition, Pittsburgh was no small part of our country emerging victorious from that period of this nation's history. And not a lot of details that I can tell you about what the submarine typically did when it went on its deployments in the North Atlantic, the Mediterranean, etc. But everyone here can know, yeah, someone just said, yeah, I can tell you. So say that for the horse and cows, and get in trouble.
We don't talk about my club. You've been debriefed.
But if we cut even just 6 years forward to 1991, we're in a period of time when, admittedly, maybe over-optimistic historians had called the end of, they called that area the end of history, as we knew it. The Soviet Union was dissolving, the Berlin Wall had begun falling, and while the free world, rightfully celebrated, there was a period of real uncertainty for our military and our submarine force. And hence, we stopped building the ship that we knew was the right thing to build during the Cold War, the Seawolf class. We simply stopped building it. And so what was our role going to be as a submarine force? It changed. Our thinking changed at that time. How do we continue to provide value in this unipolar world as we thought it was? Well, the world and reality have a way of reasserting themselves, and in this instance, it was in the form of the Iraqi invasion of Kuwait. How would our submarine force remain relevant? Pittsburgh provided a kinetic answer to that question. During Operation Desert Storm, USS Pittsburgh became, along with USS Louisville, one of the first U.S. submarines to fire Tomahawk missiles in anger. And FT1, can you raise your hand? Raise your hand if you were on board for that deployment. Okay, FT1, I don't know if the gentleman's fast, so FT1 just showed up right before we started. He was on board. I remember standing behind him for at least the first few months I was reported on board before you departed. But this event kind of did two things. It contributed significantly to the liberation of Kuwait and the defeat of Saddam Hussein's forces, and provided concrete proof of the utility and flexibility of the submarine-launched Tomahawk missile and the mission capability of our Los Angeles-class submarines. This operation proved the concept that strikes against land-based targets from submarines could provide a ready, reliable, and undetected capability to our civilian and military war planners. Pittsburgh answered the question of post-Cold War relevance with that launch and would continue to provide unmatched worldwide strategic and tactical capability throughout the decade. So as I said, the ship was built in the Cold War, launched commissioned in 1985, and then a couple years later reconfirmed the trajectory of what our submarine force would be relevant for over the coming decade. Unfortunately, I can't tell you all the details of how Pittsburgh continued to prove its worth over the post-Cold War area, but that's probably appropriate because we still, in the submarine force, don't talk about most of our missions on a day-to-day basis, at least not in unclassed form. So we can't boil down Pittsburgh's impact to one operation or one mission set, because part of what has made Pittsburgh so special is the breadth of its operations and its crew accomplishments. Crew members who served during this period, myself included, truly experienced the worldwide impact of our submarine force and Pittsburgh. Completed deployments in the Mediterranean, North Atlantic, Eastern Pacific, Arabian Gulf, even into the Gulf of Mexico for some operational test launches of Tomahawk, and visiting places, and this is where I think all the stories will start to come about later today. Okay, we went to Holy Loch, we went to Tromsø, Lisbon, Brest, Rotterdam, St. Croix, Port Canaveral, Edinburgh or Rosyth, and Halifax. Joined the Order of the Ditch. I got, everybody's kind of got their I love me wall, I got all these things on the wall. Order of the Ditch, Order of the Shellback, Spanish Main, transited the Panama Canal, supported carrier strike groups, etc. She was there when things were happening and when it mattered. And as time passed, our country and our world adjusted to a new status quo, one of a superpower world. As we now know, new threats were preparing to emerge. With 9/11, our country again found itself in conflict, albeit with a different kind of enemy. And just as we did in the past, we called upon Pittsburgh, the leaders of this nation, great nation did. And they were tasked, again, to strike against Saddam Hussein's forces and our Iraqi freedom. Like always, when needed, Pittsburgh answered the call. These great gentlemen here in uniform, they were ready and always capable of conducting special operation mission, theater anti-submarine warfare, and strike warfare when called upon. Even as she transited to Bremerton for her final voyage with Jason and crew, Pittsburgh did not rest on its laurels. In the Pittsburgh way, she continued to push the envelope, conducting her first Arctic transit during her 35 years of service, adding the Order of the Blue Nose of really being under ice to those accomplishments. I'm both proud and excited for what you and your crew have accomplished, Jason. It's truly been incredible. It's an honor to be the last crew of a ship with such a storied legacy, and you have honored that legacy during your time in command. You know, thinking about the legacy of Pittsburgh was really the final piece of the puzzle of putting together my remarks here today. And in my preparation for this event, I have had to put a call out for sea stories and memories from former COs. Now, I think wisely, I didn't get many responses. That's probably protects all of us. Abraham was like, I'll save that for later. But as the things that came in, Captain Colston, you know, last night we chatted. He commanded the boat from 2015 to 2018. He wrote about what really summed up the spirit of USS Pittsburgh. He said that Pittsburgh's spirit reputation has always been that of a boat that gets things done. And it's the crew that gets things done, not the ship. And that spoke to me about what I wanted to speak of, and what makes Pittsburgh special. Frankly, for all the submariners who are in the room, it's character, it's trust. And it's really what makes every single one of our submarines incredibly capable, both in peacetime and in combat, is that they can trust one another and they have character. From that, I know that when these gentlemen go off to other crews, they're just going to make the rest of the force better. But for Pittsburgh, you could speak those words about Pittsburgh, and but when you boil it all down, you know, this Pittsburgh crew and all them before them, they prided themselves on getting tough jobs done about, as we say, embracing the suck. The run-up to an Operation Reactor Safeguards exam, the run-up to a pre-overseas movement evaluation, a POM eval, a POM cert. You know, embracing that suck, but doing it as a team of about 150 men who are committed to the mission, committed to each other, to training them to accomplish that task. That's what the submarine force is all about. So I'm absolutely confident that this isn't the end of an era. This is an opportunity to leverage Pittsburgh sailors and get them out to the rest of the force. But it is a bittersweet day. And it's brought things full circle. As we prepare to evac USS Pittsburgh, just as when she was commissioned, we've returned to a period of great power competition. China and Russia are again seeking to assert themselves in the maritime domain around the globe. And as a Navy, as a submarine force, we, the maritime force that deploys around the globe and doesn't defend at home, but far forward, we are tasked with ensuring our country remains postured to match and counter those influences. Our new CNO, our Chief of Naval Operations, Admiral Gilday, recently put out his fragmentary order updating the Navy's design for maintaining maritime superiority. And in that document, I'm not going to read it, don't worry, he said it was our duty as a service to enhance and exploit our warfighting advantages. And core among them, first and foremost, it was to maintain our mastery of the undersea domain. And it's the submarine force that has done it. Our nation's strength as a nation, supported by the greatest Navy the world has ever known, is the United States Submarine Force. Second among those priorities was our carrier force, continue to deploy our nuclear-powered carrier force. And then from a mission set, it's maintain strategic deterrence, our #1 Department of Defense mission. That, last time I checked, was led and executed by our submarine force. So Pittsburgh was, and as long as she has former crew members in the fleet, is a major part of the legacy that has built this truly asymmetric advantage that the CNO speaks of our undersea domain. Pittsburgh, you've been there and you've gotten it done for the last 34 years. Jason, you and your crew go about your work putting USS Pittsburgh to rest. Take that legacy forward. Take that spirit and that heart of steel out into the rest of the submarine force of the Navy, because we need it now more than ever. And that is Pittsburgh's final mission, is to take that capability, that legacy forward. I look forward to seeing how you all get that done in the coming years. Thank you again for allowing me the opportunity to speak at this great event, and I look forward to the stories at the Horse and Cow. God bless you.
The ceremony you're about to witness symbolizes a tribute to the ship and its crew as it prepares for decommissioning, the time-honored end of a ship's life. As if decommissioning, the ship's ensign and commissioning pennant are hauled down and the watch is secured in a dedication to the success of the ship and crew who sail it. Executive Officer, prepare the ship for inactivation.
Prepare the ship for inactivation. Aye, sir.
Pittsburgh, attention.
Chief of the boat, report preparations for inactivating United States ship Pittsburgh.
Report preparations for inactivating United States ship Pittsburgh. Aye, sir. Navigation Department.
Deck logs are scrubbed. The trucks are scrubbed, deck logs are ready to close out. Navigation operations department is ready to activate the ship.
Very well, sir. Weapons Department.
Weapons are offloaded from Pier 2 to the secured weapons part ready to activate the ship.
Very well, sir. Engineering Department.
The engine room is secured, e-fueling valve line is complete, engineering department is ready to inactivate the ship.
Very well, sir. Supply Department.
Stores are inventoried and the galley is secured. The supply department is ready to activate the ship.
Very well. Sir, all spaces are secured. The crew is ready to inactivate the ship.
Very well. Will the guests please rise? Captain, the ship is ready for inactivation.
Very well, Executive Officer. Admiral, the ship is ready for inactivation. I intend to secure the watch. Very well, Captain. Secure the watch. Secure the watch, aye, sir. Executive Officer, lower the ensign and haul down the commissioning pennant.
Lower the ensign, haul down the commissioning pennant. Aye, sir. Off the deck. Lower the ensign, haul down the commissioning pennant.
Lower the ensign, haul down the commissioning pennant. Aye, sir. Lower the ensign. Haul down the commissioning pennant. XO, sir. The ensign is lowered. The commissioning pennant is hauled down.
Very well. Captain, the ensign is lowered, commissioning pennant is hauled down.
Very well, XO. XO, disembark the ship, secure the watch.
Disembark the ship, secure the watch, aye, sir. Pittsburgh, disembark the ship, achieve the boat, secure the watch.
Secure the watch, aye, sir. Pittsburgh, dismissed.
While the officer deck completes the final debarkation of warship Pittsburgh, I want to take a few minutes to describe the crew who has manned the ship through her final years. The officer deck, Lieutenant Gadino, represents the newest blood of warship Pittsburgh. Having served on board for just over 19 months, he quickly mastered every tactical, engineering, and navigation aspect of the ship, earning the captain's complete trust to make decisions in port and at sea to keep the ship safe in harm's way while executing the assigned mission. While Lieutenant Gadino represents the duty chief, Senior Chief Petty Officer Van Gordon represents the backbone of experience that kept the ship in fighting trim during her service. Reporting in 2018, Senior Chief Petty Officer Van Gordon and his peers taught new sailors how to be ready and respond to any casualty or contingency, while also ensuring the next generation of sailors is ready to carry the torch to their successors. As they depart the ship, all with different levels of experience, one thing ties them together. They have all earned the trust of the submarine force and all wear the submarine warfare insignia. As we commemorate Warship Pittsburgh's inactivation, let us remember that these hardened and dedicated sailors are continuing on to new ships and duty stations and will continue to be ready to answer the call to sail in defense of the nation. Strike 8 bells. Off the deck. Present the captain, the ensign, and the commissioning pennant.
Present the captain, the ensign, and the commissioning pennant. Aye, sir.
Sir, the ship is disembarked and the watch is secured.
Very well. Captain, the ship is disembarked and the watch is secured.
Very well, Executive Officer. Admiral, the watch is secured.
Very well, Skipper.
Guests may now be seated. Pittsburgh, seats. Ladies and gentlemen, Commander Dykler will present final remarks.
Thank you, XO, and thank you, Admiral Perry. Good afternoon, Admiral Hahn, former commanding officers, submarine officers and sailors, families, distinguished guests, and supporters of the USS Pittsburgh. And welcome to the final ceremony in the remarkable 35-year history of the USS Pittsburgh. A special thank you is extended to those that have traveled far to be here for this celebration. I'm Commander Jason Dykler, the 14th commanding officer of this mighty warship and a native of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I have the distinct honor today of signing the final deck logs and securing the watch for the 32nd Los Angeles class submarine and first second flight vertical launch equipped 688 to go to sea. But before those logbooks are signed and transferred to the National Archives, I want to take some time today with all of you present to recognize the families, crew, and supporters of the Heart of Steel. My most sincere thank you to Rear Admiral Doug Perry for speaking today. His presence and influence on my career truly defines the brotherhood and bond between submariners that can't ever be broken. He sincerely embodies the concept of faith, a topic I will touch upon today. And although it is a magnificent honor to inactivate a ship, it is not a task I wished for. I was surprised with the phone call 1 week into my command tour that Pittsburgh would be decommissioned in 2020. For 18 months, I fought to maintain Pittsburgh an active ship of the line. The material condition, our crew, and our warfighting capability on this 35-year-old vessel were still as strong as our next submarine, the USS Vermont, SSN-720, that is soon to be delivered by electric boat in Groton, Connecticut. But it was not to be. The old must be replaced by the new. As for this ceremony, I truly wish I could have sailed into the confluence of the Monongahela, the Ohio, and the Allegheny, and landed the 720 at the point. I promise you, I would have had a Pittsburgh Ginzerfest not seen since the regatta of 1995. That not being a real possibility, my crew truly desired to remain in Groton for this grand ceremony. But we had missions to conduct. We had fight left in us, and our orders carried us here. We had to prepare for operations never conducted on board Pittsburgh. But the brotherhood of all Pittsburgh crew members transcends location. It transcends the machinery and the steel tube that forged those bonds. So you can lament not touring the Heart of Steel one last time, or you can celebrate the accomplishments of the crew and families over the past 35 years. I ask you to do the latter. The backbone of any crew, of any service member, is the family that supports them at home. To the families of current and past crew members here today, thank you, sincerely. The power of your faces, smiles, family grams, small tokens, and love enable the strength required for the impossible tasks we ask the crew to perform. It is what sets us apart in many ways from the armed services of other nations. We know the faces of our family, and we work to truly honor them. Honoring me today is my wife, my confidant, and my closest friend, Michelle. At our wedding 21 years ago, we read the oft-used passage from Corinthians 13, more famously known as Love is Patient. Michelle and I were kids. Not much older than our daughter, Hannah, is now. We did not know what the future held for us, and we could have not predicted this amazing ride. Reading that passage now gives me such perspective on the beautiful, strong woman that chose me. Love does not delight in evil. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Michelle, through my career and through this tour, you have in turn, and at times simultaneously, protected, trusted, hoped, and persevered. I don't know why or how I earned this, but I promise once again, as I did on December 19, 1998, in front of Jeff, Lisa, Karen, and Jimmy, to honor you until death do us part. Until the end of time, it will always be you and I. Please accept these flowers and a promise from me to come back home soon. The orders are written, so if I know detailing, there is a better than 50% chance that it's going to happen. I love you, and soon our family will be whole again. Psalm 107 tells us that some went out to the sea in ships. They went down to the depths. They reeled and staggered like drunkards. They were at their wits' ends. But they have a present and powerful help in that and every other time of need, so that when they are at wits' end, they are not at their faith's end. There is a faith in submarining that is a challenge to explain. Faith in the unknown, faith in a brotherhood, faith in our families. Faith that goes beyond a steel and case tube. It's a truly unique concept. Humans search for the meaning, but true understanding. And throughout my command tour, I searched and found some of the essence of this faith. This journey, however, started well before my command tour. My grandfather, James B. Dykler, affectionately known as Big Jim and Pappy, was a Pacific Theater World War II veteran. He served on board LST-938, USS Maricopa County, and was a member of the Greatest Generation. He made a difference. Enlisting at 16, he hit his age and set out to complete a Pacific Theater tour that included the landing at Mindanao, occupation of the Philippines Islands, and mainland China. Returning from the war, he served the rest of his life as a professional firefighter in Carnegie, Pennsylvania. Growing up, I remember weekends he and my grandmother, Margaret, would travel to visit crew members from LST-938. What I remember vividly were these sea stories about his shipmate. Interested in this brotherhood and his heroic career, I once asked him his rating. He chuckled and said, "Jason, back then we didn't have ratings. I manned a gun when I was told. I cooked meals when I was told. I swabbed decks when I told. I fought for our country. That was my rating." He was my first example of patriotism and one of my first examples of faith. Believe in your shipmates and your purpose. We defend our country and the world against evil. I hoped and prayed for that opportunity when I joined the Navy. I hoped and prayed for that opportunity when I volunteered for the submarine force in 1998. And I hoped and prayed for that opportunity when I was blessed with command of Pittsburgh. January 2018, I was given that opportunity as I relieved Neil Colston as the captain of Pittsburgh. This tour did not begin, nor was it tread alone. My 4 children, Hannah, James, Matthew, and Ian, loved and supported me in so many small ways these 2 past years, each providing me strength, comfort, and wisdom. Each provided me a deeper understanding of my role as a father and a commanding officer, each helping me to shape my understanding of faith. So my youngest son, Ian, he told me simply that faith is believing in what you can't see. Smart beyond his years, he summarized submarining and command in one short sentence. Believe in what you can't see, Dad. Submariners and captains do this every day. We chase submarines we can't see. We operate equipment behind lead shielding. We have faith in our team beyond the bulkheads of our stateroom. Believe in what you can't see. My daughter, Hannah, she'll tell you that faith is believing in home. She has moved with Michelle and I since she was born in January of 2000, 9 times in total. She will tell you that strangers in a new town will raise you up and then cut you down, but that with the love of your family and your Navy family, you will always belong. Exemplifying this, USS Pittsburgh and her families had the honor of bringing our submarine safely to her new town to a final resting place. Bremerton is a long way from Groton, a daunting task for sure. The crew was asked, less than 45 days after returning from deployment, to conduct an under-ice transit from the only home port we have ever known. Families were asked to uproot and move cross-country without their husbands. Aided by my wonderful ombudsman, Michelle Waters, each and every crew member moved their families cross-country while conducting a first-of under-ice transit, winning the Submarine Squadron 19 navigation end in the process. Michelle accepted the role of ombudsman in March 2019, and then proceeded to move each and every family cross-country in April, within 1 month's time of becoming my ombudsman. I am not sure that this task can be truly understood by anyone that has never served the role of ombudsman. Michelle has been the lighthouse that has withstood erosion as each and every wave crashed across her shoreline. She has been an amazing advisor to me on the crew's needs. Michelle, please accept this small token as a thank you for me and a grateful crew. Back to the concept of faith. My son James, a burgeoning collegiate lacrosse player, will tell you that faith is having the knowledge that your training, your ability, and confidence will win the day. When I waver in my confidence, he always quotes to me the famous Wayne Gretzky line: "You miss 100% of the shots you don't take." The current and past crews of Pittsburgh never faltered when asked to take those shots, and I promise I will detail some of those stories soon. My last son, Matthew, well, he'll stay quiet on faith. Such is his way. He has a calm and an understanding that his father will always return home and bring his crew with him. Much like me, this weighs heavily and silently on him. But if you dig a little deeper, his namesake, St. Matthew, once famously scripted that faith, no matter if it is as small as a mustard seed, can move a mountain. Inside the Brotherhood of Submariners, it is the accumulation of those small mustard seed events that gives us a strong belief in each other. And it is a belief in one another that has filled this auditorium today. So many past crew members, supporters, and families traveled today for this event. Thank you for weathering the storm, the distance, and the time to endure the trip to be here. 10 of the 14 commanding officers or their spouses are present here today. None of these officers reside in the Pacific Northwest. The most traveled cross-country and thousands of miles to recapture or revisit that feeling of brotherhood. None traveled to walk inside the Pittsburgh, and all understood the impossibility of this. All too understood that the inside of the USS Pittsburgh is lifeless. No longer is there a smell of amine, the low oil mist, or the growl of the diesel generator, or the voices of dripping sarcasm from the crew's mess, or a chief's size 11 boot stomping through the bilge, or the deafening silence of a nuclear propulsion plant, and that smell of freshly minted steam. The essential inside of the submarine is gone. But what remains are the stories, the memories, the moments. I am sure, as I listed all the missing components, each submariner's nose had an olfactory response. Ears heard ghosts, hands felt valves, sticks, periscopes. These senses, these moments, that's where the Pittsburgh will eternally reside. Hidden in the corners of our mind, possibly recessed behind one too many beverages or a haze of gray smoke, exist those special relationships. I consider myself truly blessed to close the final chapter and draft those final memories on board Pittsburgh. My first captain, Paul Segrist, he's in the crowd today. He pinned on my Dolphins in 2002 and has been a constant presence during my naval career. He was present when I took command, and he is here today as we secure the watch on Pittsburgh. He made an indelible mark on how I navigated both the depths of each nautical mile steam and my career. He also provided me a vision that has lived on to Pittsburgh. He taught me 3 simple rules. Do it right, do it by procedure, and everyone comes home safe. I believe he is proud to know that I accomplished those goals. Pittsburgh did it right, sir. We did it by procedure, and my crew all came home safe. This is not always a guarantee in our line of work. Captain Segrist knew this well, as do all the men and women that don a uniform. The complex tasks, duties, and responsibility each submariner carries are extraordinary. Submariners, Pittsburgh submariners, make this extraordinary look pedestrian. 4-time Super Bowl champion coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, Chuck Noll, when asked about how his professionals excel, how they make it look easy, he once quipped, "Champions are champions not because they do anything extraordinary, they just do the ordinary better than anyone else." My crew, like those of Captain Ray Setzer, Commander Neil Walsh, Commander Steve Wolf, Commander Jim Adams, Commander Chris Sullivan, Commander Paul Bouchon, Commander Jeff Kerr, Commander Dave Hahn, Commander Mike Savageau, Commander Bill Solomon, and Commander Neil Colston made the extraordinary appear ordinary because of their ability to get the task done, to excel at the day-to-day minutia of submarining. Over the last 24 months of Pittsburgh's active duty service, we humbly accomplished a multitude of the highest priority Chief of Naval Operations tasking. During my first full month in command, Pittsburgh completed a surface at-sea engineering inspection. I'm sure there are many in the submariners in the crowd that are grunting and groaning at the thought of that inspection, or they are asking, so what? Hasn't everybody done that inspection? We all have, with varying results and corrective action plans. But it is not normal for a submarine to remain surface during an inspection of this magnitude. And it surely isn't normal during the largest East Coast blizzard of 2018. Due to a material failure in our tank level circuitry, my team made the recommendation to remain surface and finish the inspection. After a discussion with the senior board member and my Commodore and former Pittsburgh engineer, Ollie Lewis, I was given the go-ahead. So for 72 hours in Sea State 2, driving snow, ice, and wind, my crew and engineering department, led by Master Chief Ed Oskrep and Commander Lee Keller, finished a grueling inspection while driving race tracks in the Long Island Sound. Superior performance by doing the ordinary day-to-day task better than anyone else. Not to be outdone, Lieutenant Commander Craig Pottis and Senior Chief ANAV Dave Jackson planned and executed flawless navigation during an 8-month deployment and over 39,000 nautical miles steamed. Their navigation department earned the Navigation N Award twice in 3 years across 2 squadrons and 2 fleets, and completed an under-ice transit that after 20 days without a fix, navigated Pittsburgh within 1,000 yards of its estimated position. True extraordinary. Not done yet. An 8-month Yukon deployment, a 34-year-old LA-class submarine, 1 mission vital to national security, 3 theater anti-submarine warfare missions, and 3 foreign port calls. An impressive stat sheet brought to you by the Weapons Department. Lieutenant Matt Bowens, Senior Chief Chris Helms, Chief Grimes, and Chief Jobs deployed maximum lethality to the combatant commander at all times. Although no kinetic weapons were fired during our deployment, this group maintained a consistent and persistent Tier 1 status as a ready tomahawk shooter, not a small feat. During an extended stretch, Pittsburgh was the single American Connecticut asset in theater. Had our commander-in-chief called for fire, Pittsburgh was the submerged asset he would have called upon. Talk about quietly making the extraordinary look ordinary. A crew of 150 hungry submariners, a crew of 150 opinionated critics, a surplus of Pollock, a shortage of chicken nuggets, Chief Steve Green, Chop Sheridan Rucker, and Chop Ethan Stanley were the MCs in a game show where the only prize is the occasional comment card from Petty Officer Big Homie Nelson. Well, I guess that's not completely true. There was this other small prize called the Com Sub Devron 12 Supply Blue. Along with the finest logistics specialist division I have ever seen, led by LSC Michael Gray, the Pittsburgh Supply Department kept the submarine stocked with fine food, parts while deployed, and set land speed records for the accurate offload of parts in Puget Sound. An Army marches on its stomach. A Navy wins wars only if supplied. 5-star service made to look ordinary. For the crews and chiefs, let me enumerate what you accomplished following deployment in front of your families and shipmates. Sadly, because we were excellent at the ordinary, we tended to get overlooked for the extraordinary feats we accomplished. Less than 45 days after returning from an 8-month Yukon deployment with a 40% crew changeout, we certified for Arctic submarine operations and set sail for an under-ice changeout and port transit. 150 sailors and families had to arrive in Bremerton before June 1st, with a starting line of April 15th. CMC Dave Lewis handed over a fine chief's quarters and diving officer of the watch program for Cobb Dave Pope to lead into the precise ship handling environment required for an under-ice transit. But more importantly, CMC Lewis and Cobb Pope led their sailors with a passion and compassion. If a sailor needed a minute, they took it. If a sailor needed to take care of his family, they stood beside him. I was blessed with 2 of the great ones, and so was the crew of the USS Pittsburgh. Thank you, CMC. Thank you, Cobb. Thank you both for evenly matched games of cribbage, the occasional cigar and bourbon, and a deep bond that will carry on eternal. As mentioned, we were out under ice and out of communication with no one to rely upon except each other, no one to provide off-haul guidance or technical assistance. That is where Auxiliary Division, led by Chief Navarro Diaz and Petty Officer Patterson, shined brightly. They mustered their division to fix an emergent hole, an inboard leak of the sanitary waste overboard discharge pipe. Although there is usually smell-driven motivation in these types of situations, their efforts ensured those extraordinary smells remained very ordinary. At the ready, though, had those sanitation nightmares spilled over, was HM1 Austin Lindsay. The doc is an essential part of a close-knit military unit. He is a close advisor to the captain, and I have been wowed by his knowledge and compassion, and appreciated the times when Doc closed my door, he sat down, and he asked, "How are you, Captain?" There are few people underway that a captain can lean upon. Doc, thank you. Captains are assigned executive officers that in the purest personnel assignment vacuum should complement their strengths. Either by will of character or luck of detailing, I was assigned 3 of the best. Jeremy Garcia prepared the crew of Pittsburgh for our Yukon deployment and under ice transit. His knowledge of navigations and operations truly made him a second in command. I have full confidence that Jeremy will lead his own submarine on many successful missions. A special thank you to Joe Fontenot, my second XO. Joe stepped in and served as command duty officer during one mission vital to national security. His influence on my wardroom cannot be understated. Another future commanding officer that will win the day. And to Pete Gall, my current XO and Masters of Ceremonies today, a sincere thank you and bravo Zulu. Managing the unenviable task of leading a crew through an inactivation, he provided sound advice and calm during the storm. He fought to reduce pay and personnel issues from 150 to less than 10 in under 4 months. Not a small feat, and a true testament to a man who cares for his people. Thank you, and thank you for suffering through my eccentricities over the past 8 months. As we stand now, we are 30 days ahead of schedule for the decommissioning and inactivation of Pittsburgh. Not only have we done this, but we have done it at a cost savings of multi-millions of dollars to the government. Frequently lauded by Puget Sound as the most efficient. That was close. Most efficient inactivation experience. Pittsburgh, as it stands, is setting the new standard for inactivation completion. Sonar sphere hydrophones removed by sonarmen, fire control technicians, and navigation electronics technicians were recapitulated and given to other ships in record time in nearly $10 million of cost savings. The efficiency of this decommissioning is because of the hard work of these sailors and the Puget Sound Naval Shipyard Pittsburgh project team led by Project Superintendent Dustin Butler. Dustin, thank you. Special thank you goes out to Josh Fleming as well. Josh is my project's nuclear assistant project supervisor, and he has the honor of being that first man to inform me of the Pittsburgh being decommissioned in 2020. Josh will always have a special place in my heart for that phone call. He is a true professional and expert. Thank you, Josh, for taking my limited rage with grace. I would like to express gratitude for 3 officers and their families here today. Thank you, Commodore Lincoln Reichsteck, Commodore Todd Figgenbaum, and Captain Sean and Tara Huey. These 3 officers are mentors and friends. Each has given me guidance throughout my tour that has shaped who I am today. Speaking of faith and of forces beyond what we know, these 3 officers landed in the Pacific Northwest during my Geo-Bachelor tour on board Pittsburgh, and in turn, each has kept me sane and provided much-needed guidance and relief. To Tara, thank you. A home-cooked meal means much more than sustenance. It means getting through another week from those that you love the most. Now, before I finish, I want to personally thank, in front of our crew, past and present, several supporters of the USS Pittsburgh and her crew. Men and women that are the essence of what has made this submarine in our country great over these past 35 years. Dr. Carol Sawyer, what else can be said? A unique person, a unique personality, and a true leader. Very few captains talk about their relationship with their ship sponsor. It isn't something we discuss in submarine command course or in leadership school. It isn't one of those lessons learned that we pass from captain to captain. Why? Because it's rare. Carol has been a blessing to all the Pittsburgh crews and captains in the lives she has touched. 35 years of dedicated service, a longer career than most admirals. I cannot express in words the role you played in the sailors' lives, but both before and during my command tour. I can simply say thank you and pray our relationship remains forever forward. I will miss the phone calls, the postcards, the greetings, and the stories. This good and great America owes you a debt of gratitude. Mr. Bob McPherson, the crusty submarine warrant officer that has served his entire life. Bob had the helm of the Pittsburgh Navy League for nearly, if not all, of my command tour. He has been a quiet and trusted advisor, a steady hand when the sea state seemed unmanageable. Again, a rarity. I speak with other captains often about my relationship with the Pittsburgh Navy League. None have nearly what I'm blessed to have, and most definitely do not have such an amazing friend. Separated by thousands of miles, Bob always knew how and when to reach out to support the crew and to support me. One particular morning, during some challenging operations, Bob reminded me of the power of belief and the strength in holding a true course. He and the Pittsburgh Navy League have been a constant present throughout the years. Each submariner and sailor in this room should shake his hand and live our lives asking what Bob so casually asks on a daily basis. How may I serve? Retired Captain John Caspero. John leads the Pittsburgh Relief Crew, a truly unique organization. Let me accumulate a few of their accomplishments. 154 scholarships totaling $142,000 to the dependents and children of the USS Pittsburgh. That will remain in perpetuity. I don't see that going anywhere. As John mentioned last night, someone has always received something. 33 years of providing Christmas gifts for children of ship's personnel. 15 visits of over 350 ship's personnel, many of whom stayed in the homes of Pittsburgh host families. And support for 14 changes of command. And John, one morning coffee with Jason and Michelle Deichler at Pittsburgh Diner. That is what I selfishly take away. The hometown support and love for the crew. Amongst all of the monetary donations and blessings that you have bestowed, it is John and members of the relief crew's love for their sailors that is most valuable and should be treasured forever. Thank you, John. One final thank you goes out to the boys in the middle there, Huey Dietrich and the Requiem-based suspects. I told Huey and the boys once that when I see their brotherhood, I can see my future, my time when I depart the Navy, and I'm a pretty happy guy. These fine patriots served the city of Pittsburgh, veterans and crew of the USS Pittsburgh. During my tour, they made 3 unsolicited and unfunded trips to Groton to see our crew. They just sort of showed up, and they were there. They sat down with the men. They didn't ask the PAO for a tour of the base. They didn't ask for parties. They just simply came. They took care of the men, and they celebrated being our brothers. They were there the day before USS Pittsburgh left Groton for the last time. I am always at your service, and I am always ready to raise an iron at the German Club with you boys. Thank you. As the sun sets on Pittsburgh, remember the moments. Have faith in those moments. Fiercely covet our brotherhood. Treasure and celebrate what the crews and families of this submarine accomplished. We ended the Cold War. We dominated every competitor that dared enter the water with us. We answered the call after the cowardly attacks of September 11, 2001. We drove a precise tomahawk dagger deep into the heart of evil during Operations Desert Storm and Operation Iraqi Freedom. We combated and participated in what will be the end of terrorism. We threatened all those who would so feebly attempt to end our way of life. We maintained the scales tipped towards the United States in the great power competition. We displayed to the world the meaning of a great and good America. We remain the example of what is right. Be proud, gentlemen. And for one last time, crew of the USS Pittsburgh, on your feet. Raise your terrible towels high for one final time. Here we go, Pittsburgh.
Yes, please rise for the benediction. Remain standing for the mark of the party. Pittsburgh, attention. Post aside, please.
What's up, boys? I sir. Top of the back. 2. Left, right. Face. That's the mark.
Let us pray.
now retire at Grand Keystone. Let us remember its importance, as it was a piece that keeps all other stones in place. Let us now go with the honor of service, of courage, and of dedication, being the model for those who follow next. Bless all going forward who did their part in service of this fine boat. For the USS Pittsburgh, in all of its glory, will be remembered from this time forward. In your name we now pray. Amen.
Subgroup 9, parting. Commander, United States Navy, departing. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the inactivation ceremony. Thank you for your attendance at this historic event, celebrating the life of the ship and its crew. Reception is being held in the museum lobby following this. Please join us. Retire to the side.